Let's get some analysis now from Ulrich Brueckner, who joins me live from Berlin. He's a professor for European Studies at Stanford University in Berlin. Professor, thank you so much for being with us on the program. The European Union, as we know, has also been affected by these tariffs, and many EU countries, they're trying to find cheaper trading partners following the implementation of these tariffs. What measures and changes could we expect from the EU moving forward?
Well, it's not the individual member states that try to find alternatives. It's either companies, and every company is hit in a different way. There are companies like the German company that makes the printing machine to print US dollars, and they just add the 15% and they couldn't care less what's coming up next because they are kind of irreplaceable. And there are others that simply have to stop making business with the United States and have to find other markets because they simply cannot refinance the additional costs. Because tariffs work as a tax and someone has to pay it. And in a lot of cases, this will be the American taxpayers. So we will see macroeconomic effects in the United States that will be very negative. But in the meantime, the traditional trade routes and the traditional supply chains, they will be broken and distorted, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the market that is definitely unhealthy.
Trump says the U.S. has already gained billions of dollars since the tariffs came into effect. Can you rather give us some insight into the immediate impact this has had on the EU overall economically?
Well, it is true. When you just look at how much the United States earned from additional tariffs, it was in the first 100 days something like 60 billion, and it will end up to expected 300 billion. But we talk about 3 trillion, which was added by the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. And this adds 3 trillion on top of the already existing debt of the United States of more than 35 trillion. So it's basically peanuts what the additional income from tariffs could bring to deal with a major problem of the United States, that it simply cannot refinance its gigantic debt. So this is what it in the long run brings. In the short run, it's true. You can point at additional 60 or 300 billion additional revenue for the United States, but it will come with far-reaching macroeconomic consequences. And this is not something that you can smile away as a president who oversimplifies everything.
China is still in question. We're waiting to see what happens between the two when it comes to imposing tariffs. Negotiations, as we know, are still underway. What's your outlook on those discussions? Because whatever measure taken, it will be an important one for both business in the U.S. and China.
Well, at the end of the day, this is what this whole new strategy is about. The big theater is the United States-Chinese conflict. Everything else is of secondary order for Trump, and therefore it will be interesting to see what the result is. So far, China is the only player that played hardball with the United States, and the moment Trump increased tariffs, China did the exact same thing. But this will be devastating for both sides. So it will be interesting if one of the two players step back. China is in a much better position to negotiate with the United States. Even the European Union learned that there is very little they can bring to the table because they are strategically dependent. And it's not just about trade, but the end of a system of multilateralism as we knew it, and the end of the economic negotiations about trade, because as you just said in the case of India, this is about instrumentalizing trade for political purposes, and they are completely random and not something that looks like a reliable, lasting treaty.
Indeed. Professor Ulrich Brueckner, it's always great to hear your analysis. Thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World.
Thanks for having me.